I heard my wife tell her lover, he doesn't suspect a thing. 3 kids, all yours, and he's still paying for private school. I found out my own mother knew everything. On Thanksgiving, I put the DNA results on the table and left without looking back. 10 years later, I came back. As the richest man in town. My name is David, and 10 years ago, my life fell apart. I was 38, married to Paula, with 3 kids, Lucas, Sophia, and Mateo, and a decent job as a logistics manager. We lived in a small town where everyone knows each other, and secrets seemed to have no place. I thought my life was solid, that I had it all. What a mistake. It all started one summer night. Paula said she was going out with friends, something she did occasionally. It wasn't a big deal, but that night, something felt off. She dressed up too much, avoided eye contact, and left quickly. I'm not the suspicious type, but I felt a knot in my stomach. After the kids went to bed, I left a note and went looking for her. She wasn't at the bar she said she'd be at. I drove around town until I saw her car at a motel on the outskirts. My heart raced. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, but I knew it wasn't. I parked a few meters away and waited. An hour later, I saw her come out with Ruben, the kid's soccer coach. I always thought he was a good guy, with his smile and team talk. Now he seemed like poison. They kissed before getting into their cars. I approached the motel, not sure why. Maybe I wanted proof. From the parking lot, I overheard Paula on the phone, laughing. He doesn't suspect a thing, she said. 3 kids, all yours, and he's still paying for private school. It was as if the ground vanished. 3 kids, all yours. I couldn't breathe. I drove home with blurred eyes and a broken heart. The kids were asleep, and I sat in the living room staring at their photos, Lucas with his mischievous laugh, Sophia always with a book, Mateo hugging his stuffed animal. I loved them with all my being, but according to Paula, they weren't mine. The next day, without saying a word to Paula, I went to a clinic in the city and requested DNA tests, using the kids' toothbrushes as samples, claiming it was for a medical study. I didn't want Paula to suspect anything. She carried on as if nothing was wrong. Cooking, talking about school, kissing me in the mornings. Every gesture of hers was another lie. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. Paula was always on her phone with flimsy excuses. Ruben showed up at the kids' games acting like everything was fine, and my mother, Anna, seemed uneasy whenever I mentioned Paula. I didn't think much of it at first, but something wasn't right. A few weeks later, I went to my mother's house to drop off some things. She didn't know I was there. I overheard her on the phone in the kitchen. I don't know how Paula does it, she said. David has no idea, and she's still with Ruben like it's nothing. It breaks my heart. I froze. My own mother knew. I don't know how long she kept that secret, but it felt like another betrayal. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I just left, with rage and pain growing inside me. The DNA results arrived soon after. I opened them in my car, alone. Lucas, not biologically related. Sophia, not biologically related. Mateo, not biologically related. My world shattered completely. They weren't my biological children, but they were my life. Paula's betrayal was unbearable, and the fact that my mother knew and never told me hurt almost as much. I couldn't keep living like this, pretending everything was fine. I couldn't look at Paula or my mother without feeling like I was suffocating. But I wouldn't leave quietly. I decided to wait for the perfect moment to show them I knew everything. Thanksgiving was approaching, and Paula wanted to host a big dinner with my mother, some relatives, and neighbors. It would be my chance. I spent days preparing, making copies of the DNA results and putting them in envelopes. I also gathered evidence of the affair, messages I found on Paula's phone, a motel receipt, a photo I took that night in the parking lot. Everything was ready. On the night of the dinner, the house was filled with laughter and the smell of food. Paula served turkey, telling stories as if she were the perfect wife. My mother was quiet, avoiding my eyes. The kids played in the living room, oblivious to everything. I sat at the table, holding back my rage, waiting for the moment. When everyone was eating, I stood up. I have something to say, I said firmly. Everyone looked at me, expecting a speech about gratitude. I pulled out the envelopes and tossed them onto the table. This is the truth about this family. I opened one envelope and showed the DNA results. Lucas, Sophia, Mateo, they're not my biological children, I said, staring at Paula. Her face went pale. Then I pulled out the photos and messages. And this is what you've been doing with Reuben while lying to me. Murmurs started. Some relatives looked at Paula, others at my mother. I wasn't done. I turned to my mother. And you, Mom, knew. I heard you talking about it, and you never told me. She looked down, her eyes filled with tears. David, she started, but I cut her off. No excuses, I said. You both betrayed me. Everyone at this table deserves to know the truth. The silence was heavy. Paula tried to speak, but I shut her down. I threw the evidence on the table, grabbed my coat, and said, I have nothing more to say. I walked out, leaving behind the whispers and stares. I didn't look back. I drove all night with no destination, quit my job, left my house, my life. The hardest part was the kids. I loved them, but I couldn't stay in a place where everything was a lie. I promised myself I'd return one day, not as the broken man I was, but as someone new, someone no one could hurt again. That's how it began. I left town with my car, some money, and a shattered heart. I didn't know where I was going, but I was determined not to let this betrayal define me. I would build something great, something that would make everyone who betrayed me regret it. Those 10 years weren't easy, but here's the summary. I moved to a big city, started from scratch, worked whatever jobs I could, construction, delivery, until I landed at a small tech company. I knew nothing about tech, but I learned fast, studying at night, devouring books and courses. In 3 years, I went from employee to project leader. In 5, I founded my own software company. It was a huge risk, but today my company is worth millions, and I'm one of the richest men in the region. Each step took me further from the pain and closer to my goal. I never spoke to Paula or my mother again. I couldn't. About the kids, I heard little, just rumors. Paul and Reuben stayed together for a while. The town never forgot the scandal, and my mother lived almost in hiding. I felt no pity. They made their choices. A month ago, I decided to return to the town, not out of nostalgia, but for business. My company wanted to buy an old factory to turn it into a tech hub. It was a perfect excuse to go back and face my past, to show everyone who I was now, not the David who left broken, but the David who built an empire. I arrived on a Saturday morning in a car that screamed success. The town hadn't changed much. Same streets, same houses, but the people had. They stared, whispered. They knew who I was, thanks to articles and news about the hometown boy who made it big. I checked into the best hotel in the area, not much by my standards, and planned my week. Close the factory deal and, if possible, heal old wounds. The first encounter came quickly. That afternoon, I went to a cafe in the town center. As I ordered, I saw Reuben walk in. He was older with gray hair, but had the same smile that now turned my stomach. He saw me and hesitated, but walked to my table. David, he said tensely, didn't know you were here. Business, I replied coldly. I didn't come to chat. He sat down uninvited. What happened? I never wanted to end like that. My voice rose, and some customers looked over. Lie to me for years. Make me raise your kids while you laughed? I wasn't laughing, he said, looking at the floor. It was a mistake. Paula, and I didn't plan anything. Save your excuses. I cut him off. Just tell me one thing. Are the kids okay? He paused. Yeah, Lucas is in college. Sophia works at a bookstore. Mateo's in high school, plays soccer. They're good kids. That hit me. I pictured them growing up without me, and it hurt, but I didn't show it. Good, I said, standing. We're done here. I left the cafe with a heavy heart. Knowing about the kids brought relief, but reopened the wound. That night, I barely slept. I thought about reaching out to them, but wasn't sure if they want to see me. I decided to focus on the factory deal and let fate handle the rest. On Monday, I went to the meeting to buy the factory. The seller was an old man from town, but the surprise was Paula. She was there working as an assistant. When she saw me, she went pale. I hadn't seen her in 10 years. She was still attractive, but her eyes carried a weight I didn't remember. "David," she whispered. "Paula," I said without emotion. "Didn't know you worked here." "I started a couple of years ago," she said nervously. "I didn't know you were the buyer." "It's not personal," I replied. "Just business." The meeting was awkward. As we signed papers, I felt her eyes on me. When the seller left, we were alone. I didn't want to talk, but she couldn't hold back. "David, I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "What I did was awful. I don't expect forgiveness, but I regret it." "Regret?" I laughed bitterly. "Regret lying to me? Making me raise Reuben's kids? Or that everyone found out?" Tears fell. I lost the kids because of this. Lucas and Sophia barely talk to me. Mateo lives with Reuben. "I know I hurt you. Don't make me laugh," I said. "You didn't care then. Don't pretend now. Just tell me why. Why did you lie so much?" She looked down. "I don't know. It started as a mistake, a stupid night. But I couldn't stop. I loved you, David, but I was selfish." "Love," I scoffed. "That wasn't love." She said nothing more. I left, leaving her tears behind. But the confrontation I really wanted was still coming. It happened 2 days later when I went to my mother's house. I knocked, and she opened the door. She was older, her face tired. She looked at me like I was a ghost. "David," she whispered. "We need to talk," I said, walking in without waiting. We sat in the living room. Everything was the same, photos, furniture, but nothing felt right. "I know you knew about Paul and Reuben," I said bluntly. "I heard you talking about it before I left. You never told me. Why?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said. "Paula told me after Mateo was born. She said it was a mistake, that she loved you. I thought if I told you, you'd lose everything." "Lose everything?" I shouted. "I lost it anyway because of your silence, because of her lies. How could you keep quiet?" "I want to protect you," she sobbed. "You're my son." "Protect me?" I repeated, furious. "You betrayed me, Mom, just like Paula." I stood to leave, but she grabbed my arm. "Please, David, I don't want to lose you again." I looked at her, and for a moment I felt pity, but the pain was stronger. "You should have thought of that 10 years ago." I said and left. The rest of the week was intense. I closed a factory deal, but the town wouldn't let me go so easily. Rumors spread. David's back, rich, humiliated Paula, left his mother crying. I didn't care. I was there to close a chapter, not open another. But then on the last day, I got a call I didn't expect from Lucas. Someone told him I was in town, and he wanted to see me. We met at a park. He was 20, tall, with the same eyes I remembered. He hugged me, and I felt something I hadn't in years. Hope. "Why did you leave?" he asked, his voice breaking. "We thought you didn't want us." I told him the truth without ugly details. "I loved you, but I couldn't stay after what happened. I never stopped thinking about you. I'll always be your dad if you want me." "Of course we want you," he said, tears in his eyes. He told me about Sophia, working at a bookstore, wanted to be a writer, and Mateo, a soccer star. We promised to stay in touch. That moment was a ray of light amidst everything. I left town with a deal signed and a small reconnection with Lucas, but something told me my story with that place wasn't over. I returned to the town 6 months later. The tech hub was underway, and my company needed me to oversee the project. This time, I didn't come just for work. Lucas and I had been texting, and he said Sophia and Mateo wanted to see me. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I couldn't keep running. Also, rumors said Paula and Reuben were having problems, and my mother had tried contacting me several times. I didn't respond, but I knew I'd have to deal with her eventually. I arrived on a Friday, and the town felt different. The factory, now under renovation, brought new life, workers, trucks, movement. People looked at me with a mix of admiration and curiosity. I checked into the same hotel and got straight to it. I called Lucas, and we agreed to meet at a family restaurant with Sophia and Mateo. I was nervous, rare for me after years of building a shield. When I arrived, I saw them at a table. Lucas, with his easy smile, was taller than I remembered. Sophia, now 18, had a serious but warm air, a book under her arm. Mateo, 15, looked like a younger Lucas, but with a shyness that reminded me of myself at his age. I sat down, and for a moment, no one spoke. "Thanks for coming," I said, breaking the silence. "I wasn't sure you want to see me." "Of course we wanted to," Lucas said firmly. "You're our dad." Those words hit me. They weren't my biological kids, but they didn't see it that way. Sophia nodded, and Mateo, though quiet, looked at me with something like relief. We spent the dinner talking about their lives. Lucas was studying engineering. Sophia wanted to be a writer, and Mateo dreamed of being a professional soccer player. We didn't talk about the past, but I felt their questions lingering. At the end, Mateo spoke up. "Why did you leave?" he asked quietly. "Mom said it was because of her, but we never understood." I sighed. I didn't want to tarnish their image of Paula, but I couldn't lie. What happened between your mom and me was complicated. I found out things that broke me, and I couldn't stay. But I never stopped loving you. I left to rebuild myself, but I always thought of you. Sophia looked at me with bright eyes. "We missed you," she said. "But you're here now, right?" "Right," I said, and I meant it. We promised to see each other more, and for the first time in years, I felt I could reclaim something I had lost. But the town wouldn't let me go so easily. The next day, while checking progress at the factory, Paula showed up. I didn't expect her. She was thinner, with dark circles, and her voice trembled. "David, we need to talk," she said, blocking my path. "We have nothing to talk about." I replied coldly. "You said what you had the last time." "It's about the kids," she insisted, "and about me. Please." I looked at her, and though I wanted to leave, something in her expression stopped me. We went to an empty office in the factory. "Speak," I said. She sat nervous. "I know I don't deserve your time, but I'm losing the kids. Lucas and Sophia barely talk to me. Mateo lives with Ruben, and even he doesn't listen to me. It's all my fault, I know, but I don't want him to grow up hating me." "And what do you want me to do?" I asked sarcastically. "Tell them it wasn't your fault? You pushed them away, Paula. You and Ruben." "I know," she said, tears falling. "But I don't want them to pay for my mistakes. And Ruben, he's not what you think. He left me years ago when the money ran out. I'm alone, David." For a second, I felt pity, but the pain of her betrayal was stronger. "That's not my problem," I said. "You made your bed, now lie in it." "Please," she begged, "talk to the kids. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just that they don't hate me." I looked at her, and though part of me wanted to help for the kids' sake, I couldn't. "Talk to them yourself," I said. "I'm not your savior." I left her there. That night, I got a message from my mother. "I'm in the hospital. Please come." I didn't want to go, but something pushed me. When I arrived, I found her in a room, hooked up to machines, pale but conscious. "David," she said weakly, "thanks for coming." "What happened?" I asked, keeping my distance. "A heart attack," she replied. "Not the first one. I don't have much time." That hit me. Despite everything, she was my mother. I sat and she spoke. "I know I failed you," she said. "Knowing about Paula and not telling you was a mistake. I thought I was protecting you, but I hurt you. I'm sorry." I looked at her, and the anger I'd carried for years felt heavy. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "You were my mother." "Because of fear," she admitted. "I didn't want to see you broken, but I lost you anyway." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, but another just wanted to let it go. "It doesn't matter anymore," I said finally. "I just want you to be okay." She smiled through tears. "You're a better man than I was a mother," she murmured. I promised a visit, but I left with a heavy heart. The last day in town brought something unexpected. The kids invited me to Mateo's soccer game. I went, and seeing them there, Lucas cheering, Sophia taking photos, Mateo running on the field, felt like home. After the game, which Mateo's team won, we sat in the bleachers. "We want you to stay," Lucas said directly. Not all the time, but we want you in our lives. Sophia nodded. We don't care what happened with Mom or Reuben. You're our dad. Mateo, always a quiet one, spoke up. We missed you. I couldn't speak. Tears won. I hugged him, and in that moment, I knew I'd gained something bigger than money or success. I'd reclaimed my family, not by blood, but by heart. But the town had one last surprise. That night, there was a town hall meeting to celebrate the tech hub's start. I went because my company was the focus. To my surprise, Paula and Reuben were there, together. I hadn't seen them like that since that night at the motel. The tension was thick. Reuben approached with beer, fake confidence in his voice. David, he said, great project. The town's grateful. I didn't do it for the town. I replied coldly. I did it for me. Paula joined, nervous. David, we don't want trouble. We just want to move on. Move on. I laughed. You two destroyed my life, and now you want to act like nothing happened? People started staring. Reuben flushed. Don't be like that, man. It was years ago. Years. I shouted, losing patience. I raised your kids while you slept with my wife, and you, Paula, lied to my face. Don't talk to me about moving on. Silence took over. Paula looked down, and Reuben muttered something and left. Others stared, some with respect, others with discomfort. I didn't care. I said what I needed to. I left town the next day, but this time it wasn't an escape. I left the tech hub in good hands, promised the kids I'd visit often, and even made peace in my own way with my mother before she passed weeks later. Paula and Reuben faded into their own problems, and the town learned not to mess with me. Today, I live between the city and the town, close to the kids. Lucas calls to talk tech. Sophia sent me her stories, and Mateo invites me to his games. I didn't erase the past, but I built a better future. And for me, that's the real victory.